and welcome to today's session of the Readers Collective on feminism. And today we are going to discuss one of the chapters by Nivedita Menon, Professor Nivedita Menon, who has written the book in 2012 on Seeing Like a Feminist. And this is a very interesting chapter because it talks about the nuanced realities of our life, and one can relate to it in a much more direct way, which was which is much more specifically in the context of India. It is much more relatable. So, as you know, Nivedita Menon is a prominent feminist scholar. She's a professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi. She has written extensively on issues which are related to gender, sexuality, politics, nationalism in India and at the global level. Her books include Seeing Like a Feminist, Gender and Politics in India, Power and Contestation, India since 1989. She's known for her critical and intersectional approach. Now, what is intersectional approach? Intersectional approach is basically when you're talking about the meeting point of gender, race, ethnicity, language. When they intersect, then what is the impact of it and the various approaches of understanding it. So she takes an intersectional approach to feminist theory, which tells you that goes into the very nuance of not just about women's rights, but also about the entire terminology of being a woman is not a singular terminology. There are different identities associated to being a woman of caste, class, ethnicity, language, region, marital life or no marital life, kids or no kids. And then comes your transgender queer population and the gender fluidity also. So all of this and how inequality and oppression is faced through various intersections are discussed in this excerpt, which I'll be teaching you today. Along with writing about feminism and feminist scholarship, what I really love about Nivedita Menon is that she's also an activist, and she has taken part in all the progressive movements in India very vocally. So it is just not academia per se and writing theory. It's actually empirical and subjective at the same time, experience of these lived realities. So जो ये chapter है, इसका नाम है The Story of Moni. Story of Moni क्या है? ये शुरू होता है कि in the last class we talked about the nude makeup look, and we talked about Botox, and we talked about plasma replacement therapy and so many other things. All of it which is to look in quotes natural. In order to fit in this invisible natural order which the society has created. So even by our looks, we are conforming to that. These days, I see a lot of trends of artificial nails. मेरा पहला question आता है, जैसे ही I see students wearing these long artificial nails, my first question is, क्या रे तुमको बर्तन नहीं धोना होता है क्या? And the student is like, no. Okay. And then coloring of hair. I had a friend during my UG days who used to color her hair with every color possible. She had thick curly hair till here, and she would color like एक streak है orange का, तो एक red, एक burgundy, एक blue. So she was complete like उसका. So after so many years, we have reconnected. And when I looked at a picture, I said, "Ai, बाल सारे काले कैसे हैं?" You know, she's like, नहीं नहीं सब मोह माया है. After all these years, I can tell you. By the way, पास से देखोगे तो सफेद दिखेंगे अब. So I was like, okay, fine, good enough. So the point is कि society makes zero tolerance hai. When I say zero tolerance, it means that there will be immediate punishment. If you're breaching or trespassing, this very, very complicated and complex and invisible natural order. जैसे आप में से किसी ने कोडिंग किया है? Do you know how coding is done? Like जैसे वेबसाइट बनाते हैं, कोडिंग कैसे करते हैं, या कोई लैंग्वेज का कोडिंग जानते हो आप? Anyone? Yes, no? If no, then say no. Then I'll give you a different example. Chat पे बोलेंगे. No, ma'am. Okay. ऐसे भी बोल सकते हो. It is much more interactive and fun. आपने कभी वो देखा है कि stash of cards are carefully made into a house, layer after layer after layer, ऐसे पूरा घर बनाया जाता है और एक फूंक मारो तो पूरा गिर जाता है, right? Or one ball which is rolling and it hits one particular, the domino effect, that it hits one particular card and then every card falls down. ये सारी चीजें. So suddenly all of that is what? It is disruption. Disruption to what was supposedly normal when you're not conforming to the normal looks and behavior. So there is a certain kind of natural or normal look that you have to adhere to. मोनी की स्टोरी क्या है? तो वेस्ट बंगाल के एक छोटे से गांव में कुछ साल पहले, so if the book is written in 2012, तो maybe this is talking about 2008, 2009. There was a young girl called Moni, जिसको मारा गया था, पीटा गया था, and she was stripped naked. What was her fault? Because she was behaving like a boy. This was massive violence against her. How dare she choose her dress code, which was different? How could she? But the moment you take a step back and just think about it, that if you or I are finding that very repulsive and weird, that how can in such modern times a barbaric episode like this happen, then just think about it, that if, for example, in your college or in your university or in your working space, you see a man wearing a sari and putting a bindi and coming to work and applying lipstick and everything. Thankfully, I had the opportunity to see that in one of my workplaces, and I felt very empowered when I did that. That we have a space where this person, with all his courage, or I should not use the pronoun his or their courage, is able to carry out whatever they want. It was many, many years ago, and maybe feels like a different lifetime. But it would be very, very supposedly weird, I guess. Recently, I was having a conversation where someone was telling me that their one of the family members got married to a Greek guy, and in the wedding, the Greek guy came in his own customary clothes, which involved a skirt and a shirt. So it was very difficult during the wedding for him also to sit. He was skirt पहन के कैसे बैठे and everything, and do the entire puja and everything. What I'm trying to talk here is that there is this look of curiosity or bewilderment कि कुछ अटपटा, मतलब कुछ अटपटा. Once I saw a girl in a frock in the college and I told her, why are you wearing frock? Maybe उसको बहुत लोगों ने शायद उस दिन टोक दिया था. She was looking very pretty. तो बोली ठीक है आज से नहीं पहनेंगे. So I was like, no, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. Your body, your choice. I was, I meant it in a way because it's very cold outside and you will catch cold. That is why I meant you should never apologize for what you're wearing. So, again, the story of Moni continues. Moni had to live with this horror, जो एकदम extreme end of the spectrum है और जो बिल्कुल it was comparatively easy for the natives of that village to rebuke and beat and parade a girl naked. But all of us have the responsibility of maintaining these kinds of protocols of both tolerance and intolerance. If they are not kept in part and we do not play our part, there will be disruption. And we are taught from a very younger age that we have to bring up our children appropriately. We have to lovingly correct them or punish them if they do any kind of inappropriate behavior. We should never do anything inappropriate in front of them. They should never snigger at someone who is different. Till the time of parenting trap एक चीज होती है, पता नहीं if you know कि parenting trap नाम का एक चीज trap होता है जिसमें one of the parents is always very like good cop, bad cop. One is very good, one is very bad, depending on the context, right? So that is a kind of trap that they set. Then there's emotional blackmail. At times there is medical intervention. I'll give you two examples. One was Franz Fanon. Franz Fanon was born in Martinique Islands, your Caribbean islands, which was a colony of France at that point of time. And he went to study psychiatry in Paris. And he wrote eventually two books, Wretched of the Earth and Black Skin, White Mask. He played an important role as a doctor in psychiatric treatment in the Algerian War for Independence also. He was one of the first few psychiatrists who fought for the view that in terms of medical intervention, do not give electric shocks to people, give cultural therapy. So he was against electric shock. But one thing which was very interesting that happened to him was when he was a youngster, he went to Paris to study psychiatry. वो बस में बैठा हुआ था और a tall black man sitting in the bus, that's it. But एक छोटी सी बच्ची 2 या 3 साल की white girl with her mother was there and she suddenly saw Franz and she started like howling that she was so scared. She was so scared. She started crying and howling, looking at him, which was one of the, like, what do you call it? वो 2-3 साल का बच्चा इस तरीके से जो उसका reaction था, it was not even response. It felt that for Franz Fanon that he had been unseen in a way that took away every power and integrity that he had. The second case was Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault, another French sociologist who was born in a very elite diplomatic family in France. And he was homosexual. Can you believe that his family intervened and gave him electric shocks in his mind, in his brain and everything, ताकि उसका ये जो disorder है, deviant behavior है, वो ठीक हो जाए, because it was not natural to be homosexual. So there are various ways in which children are brought up in a society, in the family, as a social institution. but they have very limited scope of negotiating the spaces that they are in. But the violence that Moni faced was not only about gender appropriate look and behavior. There was also this massive anxiety which was around maintaining and protecting the institution of marriage. Marriage, which is a very patriarchal, heterosexual marriage. This week, the context of same sex marriages is in debate in front of your Supreme Court. There was a lady in one of the debates, a filmmaker, who fought for the fact that facts are not facts. Because if facts were facts, then she and her partner would not have been considered factually correct to even have a partnership. And the child that they have would never be recognized legitimate. Thank God that fact change. And the creation of facts is in a playground of those who have power. In the same way, marriage as an institution is very patriarchal. Now, patriarchal is not only पुरुष प्रधान की यानी पुरुष ही बना रहे हैं, औरतें भी उसमें सहयोग देती हैं. मोनी को टॉर्चर इसलिए भी किया गया था क्योंकि एक तो वो लड़कों के ऐसा कपड़ा पहनती थी और दूसरा she refused to give up her friendship with the newly married woman of the village. Imagine the kind of anxiety which the village and the villagers would have had, because it was not considered to be a gender appropriate behavior. I myself have, in in city like Delhi also. So first thing which I would like to tell you is that you will never understand what it means to be a woman if you're in a girls' college. You will understand what it means and what is the sovereignty of your body when you're pushed and elbowed in even crowded buses or you're in a co-ed campus, and then you realize with your own experience what it means to be a woman, because it is a very visceral plus intellectual experience. The second thing is, in the same way that you will not understand what it means to be an Indian if you're in India. Right now, Mrs. Chatterjee and Norway, the movie in Rani Mukherjee's movie is out. Norway embassy in India has stated that no, the entire depiction of Norway is currently wrong. But what happened and the kind of trauma and counseling that both her kids are going through, which, because the story is based on a real life story, both the kids are going through, they're back in India, but both of them are going through trauma and medical counseling, even now. The husband continued to stay in Norway as an astrophysicist. So what is gender appropriate behavior, which I was talking about? Gender appropriate behavior is that I tried looking up for, I did flat hunting in several parts of Delhi. And one thing which I felt very closely to my existence was that giving a flat to a single woman was something which many of the landlords were not ready to. जहाँ पे वो बात करते थे कि हाँ मतलब the landlord is maybe in his 50s, और जहाँ पे वो बोलते थे कि हाँ अपनी मम्मी से बात करके आपको बताएंगे, इसका मतलब they're not going to give it to me. That was the code word. That you also don't wait, I'm also not letting you know. They were not comfortable with the fact. When my current landlord, who has a lot of girl kids and daughter-in-laws and everyone, so I said कि देखिए पहले ही बता देते हैं, शादी ना करेंगे ना करने का विचार है, तो सोच के आप दीजिएगा. It's like ठीक है. But the point is, it took me 40 flats to find one. 45 flats to find one. Why am I trying to personalize it? I'm trying to personalize it because you do not think of it only as something which is written in a book and this kind of gender appropriate behavior. If someone was married, they would get easily even, a negotiated deal in the posh areas. But again, if you're a divorcee, then that's a different thing. But if you're just a family, a happy heterosexual family, you're good to go. So sexuality is strictly policed in our quarters, and purity, and this entire, what Kamla Basin said, कि जब भी कोई rape survivor होता है तो the entire family says कि इज्जत चली गई, तो भाई वजाइना में इज्जत क्यों रखी समाज की पूरी, नहीं रखते ना. तो the entire idea कि ये purity का concept, one of my friends who might now be in her 50s said that when she was married, her husband was so happy that she was a virgin that the breaking of the hymen produced blood, and that blood he safeguarded in a handkerchief for the rest of his life. The entire concept of virginity, the concept of purity, the purity also not in terms of sexuality, but also in caste, race, religion, all of that. Non-heterosexual desire continues to threaten identities. A student of mine asked me that if why are transgenders not accepted in the society, because they do not reproduce. The student is 15 years old, and I was enamored by the level of depth of his thought. What exactly is, there's a difference between wedding. Wedding is an event, marriage is a process which starts after your wedding. Wedding is a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 10 day, whatever event. But marriage is supposedly a process which might last for 2 days, it might last for eternity, depends. But it is a non-heterosexual desire, which is very threatening to the society. What if these non-heterosexual people go ahead and have kids through adoption or surrogacy or technological intervention and all these sperm banks and everything? Then the purity of these identities and the kids, all of that is under threat. Oh my God. Women freezing their eggs. Oh my God. But even freezing the eggs is very costly, by the way. Of course, when heterosexual, potentially procreative desire is seen as threatening, when it refuses to flow in the legitimate directions, like even you know the terms of honor killings and everything which are done, even if it is a heterosexual desire, there are honor killings that take place. And violence in these forms in today's society, the level of violence that has permeated, or maybe media has evolved to a level that it tells you about these reported violences immediately. A woman, 24-year-old woman, chopped off her mother's parts and stored it in the cupboard in Mumbai, told the relatives that her mother has gone to Kanpur and bought a lot of perfumes and incense sticks to take away the smell of the rotting body in the cupboard. A man killed his wife and in Mumbai again, dumped her body in the bed box. Then you have the Shraddha Valkar case, where the partner chopped off the body in 32 parts, kept it in a 300-liter fridge, bought it from her own, the Dickies credit card. And every day, early morning, he would go in his backpack, take one body part and throw it in one jungle part of Mehrauli and everywhere. Immediately just after that, there was on the Dehradun expressway a red big bag which was found containing parts of a woman's body. The amount of violence that has become now rampant is also very concerning. There was a case, there's this online game called Ludo, not the movie. Ludo, हमारे समय पे तो Ludo एक game होता था, अब online game होता है Ludo. So there was an Indian guy from UP who was working as a security guard in Karnataka, I think in Bangalore. And he fell in love with a Pakistani woman while playing Ludo. So they decided that she'll come to Nepal, and then from Nepal, he will take her to India, and then they went to Bangalore, they got married here. All of it was done. And then the IB came to know that a Pakistani woman has intercepted the borders, and then he was arrested, she was deported, the landlord was also arrested. This was also the case of policing, where everything was okay, but the nationality. So there are many rules and regulations and dictats of this patriarchal institution which polices the sexuality, even within the family itself. And family at its very core sustains this social order in the way it is. This social order is very inherently and very smartly able to recognize the non-heterosexual desire. The biggest trail or pattern that you can leave around is by the way you dress. How dare you dress like that? How can you have your own voice? How dare you have autonomy over your own body to wear whatever you want to? I have never experienced, but what if I wear dhoti one day and then I'll just see how it feels like? Because it is somewhere disrupting the entire gendered appearance or the order of gender. जैसे assembly में सबको height wise खड़ा करवाया जाता था, बेहोश होके सब गिर जाते थे कि नहीं नहीं छुट्टी मिल जाएगा. So the gendered appearance is the same way as you stand in the assembly line. And all of these things, that whom you're friends with, who comes to your house, where you party, what time you come home. In Brussels, there was a museum which had different kinds of clothes of women, like skirts, long pants, long skirts, gowns, put in the museum to show that clothes are not the reason for rape. And these were rape victims, rape survivors, sorry, clothes. So Moni was said to be 16 at that point of time. And she was so small and thin that she looked about only 12 when a reporter went to survey the story. How did she escape the binding force of those protocols that most of us have internalized without even questioning it? We don't even question it because it is so normalized and internalized that we don't even know. Nivedita Menon used to tell me that to the class that if you want to, you just want to understand how abnormal, not abnormal, but how deviant your entire society is, try explaining everything to an alien. When you will try explaining everything which you have internalized to an alien, you'll understand that you have a loss of words in explaining things. The entire structure, it is like a structure, it's like a house that we all are in, a box that we all are in, which supposedly seems so natural. It sometimes seems like a cave in which we all are all the time looking at the shadows. And we have not found our philosopher kings. I have a problem with the term kings, but anyway. But the entire idea that one particular, the anxiety is so much that even one push and perhaps the entire social structure will fall out of and due to domino effect. There are so many fissures, there are so many leakages, they're porous and so vulnerable at all the times. But there are so many monies, and we all have monies inside of us every time when we feel we are scrutinized on the way we dress, the way we talk, the way we keep our hair, the way we don't keep our hair, the way we talk to someone or we choose not to talk to someone, the way we even choose education or choose any kind of career or not choose a career or whatever it is. Even the idea of choice, which seems that, after a certain kind of privilege, you have a choice, is not the choice that you have. It has been the choice of the options that have been created for the society and the safeguarding of the society. And it feels as if you have the right to choose it. No, you don't. So, what's love got to do with it? So, to understand that, we have to first understand what is family. Family is a group of people who love and support one another in good times and bad. Family is a place where we'll receive a lot of warmth also and a lot of pitai also. Like one day I was asking few of my students ki kis cheez se pitai pari hai. So everyone said hanger, belan, jaru. एक बच्चा बोला गमला. हम बोले गमला? गमला से कब पिटाई पड़ा तुमको? So the point is कि there's a lot that goes behind the facade of family. But now the meaning of family has also changed. The context of family has changed. In India, there was a symptomatic of India was a joint family. The joint family system, at least family का मतलब joint, because the British did not have any translation equivalent to the Indian family system. They had more of nuclear family structures, so they use the term joint family or extended family. But joint family or disjointed family is not a bone part of it. So, nevertheless, family is a primary group, primary social group with strong intimacies and strong um, emotions. It can be the site of love, it can be site of hatred also. Like the same families, you have domestic violence, you same family में बंटवारा होता है, same family में court cases चलते रहते हैं लंबे लंबे time तक. So family means different. It's subjective. What a family is very subjective. But just any group of people who do this are not recognized as family. For example, a group of friends, a homosexual couple with adopted children, or unmarried mothers living with their siblings and so on, they are not categorized as families. And here, family is also very patriarchal in the sense, very not patriarchal, but towards your father's side. So when a girl gets married, my grandmother, she is 80s year in her 80s. So she always likes going back to the village, my grandfather's village. My grandfather is no more. She loves once a year, she'll always go there to see everything and all of it. But she was not born there. She was not born and brought up there. So I asked her that, तुम अपने घर क्यों नहीं जाना चाहती? मतलब तुमको कभी मन नहीं करता कि तुम अपने घर जाओ? तुम अपने ससुराल हर साल जाती हो, नाना भी नहीं है. क्यों जाती हो? तो बोली कि नहीं, अब वही मेरा घर है. आई वाज लाइक, व्हाई? तुम पैदा तो वहां नहीं हुई थी, तुम्हारा वो रिलेशन नहीं है उस घर से. तुम वहां गई थी और तुम्हारे लाइफ का मैक्सिमम पार्ट अपने हस्बैंड के साथ उस घर में बीता भी नहीं है. बट इन हर माइंड दैट इज हर होम and not exactly the place that she lives right now, not in the city. In her mind, the home is where in that village she was married. She also told me that during that time, it was very common to have several children. 8, 9, 10, 12, chal rahe hain. So when she was having the fifth child, she was so ashamed that she would never get out of the house. Because what will the society think? When she was having the fifth kid in her womb. So even the entire idea of family and how it is and all of that is also considered to be but who answers this question of who, where, what, when, how, why? A woman answers them. Family is an institution with a legal identity, and the state recognizes the family, does not, and the heterosexual family, by the way. You're forced into being a part of the family. I asked a lady who is expecting a child, she was listening to all the religious songs. So when I called, I could listen to all the religious songs in the background, and I was like, "ये क्या हो रहा है भाई?" She's like, "नहीं नहीं अच्छा है, इसके पीछे एक scientific study है. If during this time, if you if the child is hearing the songs, तो जब वो आफ्टर डिलीवरी जब बच्चा बड़ा होगा वो सोएगा नहीं तो यही गाने सुन के उसके दिमाग में ये ट्रेनिंग हो रही है कि स्लीपिंग का ये टाइम है एंड एवरीथिंग." लाइक यही गाने क्यों सुनते हो तुम? पठान भी चला दो, नो प्रॉब्लम, यही सुन के सो जाएगा, सो जाएगी व्हाटएवर, सो जाएंगे व्हाटएवर, आई डोंट। सो शी सेड नहीं 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 वो अपनी भाषा में सुना रहे हैं। सो आई वाज लाइक अब आए ना तुम भाषा पे, तो ये तो भाषा आपकी नहीं है, आपका मदर टंग ये नहीं है। जिस गाना आप जिस लैंग्वेज में बच्चे को सुना रहे हो वूम में, शी सेड नहीं, शादी के बाद भाषा बदल जाती है। एंड आई वाज लाइक ओके। So it all started from the song which was going on in the background to the changed, transitional, domesticated mindset of the person who will definitely not agree with this narrative of mine. And I love her for that. But the point is that the question why, many housing societies, you should watch this Sunil Grover's web series called as Sunflower Society. You will love it. I just took the subscription of Z for watching that entire series, and I watched it, I think 1 or 2 years back, uh, continuously. You'll love it. It is a riot. Us society mein, they have this entire screening committee of who can get a flat and not. So a couple came, they were very happy कि अच्छा एक normal couple आया है, husband wife. पता चला कि husband का तीसरा divorce के बाद ये चौथी बीवी है और जो औरत है उसका ये तीसरा husband है. They're like, no, no, we cannot allow such people. It is giving a bad impression to the society. No, 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 no. Then they said no. Then in that society, a Muslim family came to take a rented accommodation. They said, no, 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 we do not allow it. They're like, no, no, no. Then a few teenagers came, like you live in partners who were not married. They're like, no, 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 we will not allow. Then a pan wala came who did not want to rent. He wanted to buy the property. And they're like, he was in his shirt and chappal and everything. And they're like, क्या काम करते हो तुम? Like, पान बेचना है इसके सामने ही, हमें खरीदना है घर, पैसे हैं हमारे पास. He said, no, एकदम नहीं. They were like at shock. ऐसी इसकी हिम्मत कैसे हो सकती है इस सोसाइटी में आने की और पूछने की भी कि उसको यहाँ घर मिल सकता है. So हाउसिंग सोसाइटीज के अपने इनफॉर्मल अंडरस्टैंडिंग होते हैं. Whenever in my society, if anyone tries to introduce themselves, they will talk about that whether they are owners or tenants. I'm like, I don't care whatever I have to say that. So the entire, but it gives you a lot of definition about the society that you're in. So a family can only be patriarchal, heterosexual family. That is a man, his wife, his children, who will stay with their grandparents. वहाँ दादा दादी नाना नानी नहीं आते इस joint family के concept में अगर आ रहे हैं तो. In 1984, a judgment of the Delhi High Court said that the fundamental rights ensured to every Indian citizen by the Constitution were not applicable in the family. These rights have to stop at the door of the home. When you let fundamental rights into the family, said the judge, it would be like setting a bull into a china shop. And he was completely right. Because if you talk about equality, liberty, all of these fundamental rights, family itself is a very unequal institution of beat of gender, age, all of it. And the entire private property ownership and lineage, the patrilineal forms of और patrifocal forms of family की शादी के बाद लड़के घर में जाके बहू रह सकती है कि घर जमाई हो जाएगा तो निठल्ला है. ऐसे कैसे होता है? right? The entire idea that the family name, a student of mine in the first year, I remember when I started teaching, her surname was her mother's first name. And I asked her very interestingly, like, you have a very beautiful, it feels like the first name. And she was very sad. She said, मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगता अपना पूरा नाम. तो मैंने बोला क्यों अच्छा नहीं लगता भाई? तो वो बोली कि मेरी मम्मी का नाम है मेरा सेकंड नेम, मेरे को अच्छा नहीं लगता. सबके पापा का नाम है उनका, मेरे को अच्छा नहीं लगता. तो मैंने बोला कि हाँ, सब अपने बाप का नाम गौरव करेंगे, तुम अपनी माँ का करना. बहुत बड़ा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है. एंड उसके बाद से उस लड़की का पूरा पर्सनालिटी भी चेंज किया. कि आई टोल्ड हर कि तुमको पता है कि ये कितना रेयर है. डू यू हैव एनी आइडिया? इन a lot of students I see कि just first name आजकल लिखने का ट्रेंड है. It is not because कि वो कास्ट नहीं दिखाना चाहते या whatever. Because it's easier कि लड़की की शादी होगी तो वो हस्बैंड का कास्ट अडॉप्ट करना उसको लिए आसान होगा नेम चेंज में. That is the narrative behind it. So मृत्यु दंड एक मूवी है. When Nivedita Menon is recalling this movie and she says कि उसमें दो कैरेक्टर्स थे, शबाना आजमी और माधुरी दीक्षित, and they are married to two brothers. शबाना का जो हस्बैंड है वो इम्पोर्टेंट है एंड एवरीवन इन द विलेज नोज कि वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. तो वो कुछ समय के लिए कहीं चली जाती है, शी हैज एन अफेयर, व्हेन शी कम्स बैक शी इज प्रेग्नेंट. तो उसको जो सिस्टर इन लॉ है माधुरी दीक्षित, वो पूछती है दीदी ये किसका बच्चा है, हुज चाइल्ड इज दिस? मतलब आई एम प्रीटी श्योर कि अंग्रेजी और हिंदी में एग्जैक्टली नहीं बोलेगी, लेकिन किसका बच्चा है. ना द क्वेश्चन इज वेरी एब्सर्ड ना, लेकिन ना स्टूपिड सा क्वेश्चन है, किसका बच्चा है, क्योंकि बेबी तो लेडी के अंदर है. और मतलब किसका बच्चा है, मतलब फादर का नाम पूछ रहे हो ना, और फादर से फिर कास्ट और प्रॉपर्टी और बहुत सारी चीजें समझ में आएंगी. शबाना आजमी ने सिंपली से एग्जाम्पल आंसर दिया कि मेरा बच्चा है. एंड मेनन रिमेम्बर्स दैट देयर वाज सम काइंड ऑफ अ बuzz एट दिस रिप्लाई. उस थिएटर में कुछ गर्ल्स थे. shows the kind of anxiety which is there. But at the same time, no man can ever know कि उसका बच्चा है कि नहीं. औरत को तो पता रहता है, मैन को नहीं पता रहता ना. Not even with a DNA test. DNA test आपको ये बता सकता है कि if the child is not yours. But if your DNA matches, it only indicates a high statistical probability, very empirical, high statistical probability that this is your child. So that's why it is said कि motherhood is a biological fact, but fatherhood is a sociological fiction. I remember when in standard fourth, I had to get operated. So we had to go to, because there were not so many hospitals then where I lived. So we had to go to the capital city to get the operation done. And they did a very severe, painful operation of mine. And I used to cry and they would make fun of me so that they would, doctors would play with my mind. Ki, nahi, nahi, dard nahi ho raha, dard nahi ho raha. Stitching they were doing live. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, नहीं 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 ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है. लाइक नहीं नहीं पूरा भय भय करके रो रहे हैं रो रहे हैं रो रहे हैं रो रहे हैं. एंड मम्मी नहीं है, सो आई एम लाइक और दर्द में रो रहे हैं एंड एवरीथिंग. तो देन वन ऑफ द डॉक्टर सेड कि माता कभी कुमाता नहीं हो सकती है, माता कभी कुमाता नहीं होगी. सो उस समय हैं, it was a very good distraction for my mind, which was in a lot of pain at that point of time, but it did stay with me. So motherhood is a biological fact and fatherhood is a sociological fiction. How can you prove actually 100% statistics to nahi hai? It is this knowledge that creates permanent anxiety for patriarchy. So that is why the sexuality of women have to be strictly policed ताकि multiple partners ना हो ना, फिर तो पता नहीं चलेगा. I think Draupadi is my role model. But again, if I say something like that, there will be a certain kind of anxiety which will be there. So, but there was in Uttarakhand, there was a woman who had I think, let me tell you the name, which was a very interesting story. This was the case of in an Indian village, उत्तराखंड में 2019 में रिपोर्ट हुआ है कि this was the case of Raju Verma, who stays near to Dehradun with one baby son and 5 husbands. All her husbands are brothers, and she is asked to sleep with a different brother every night. This has led to the confusion about the real biological father of the 18-month-old son. Raju ne also mentioned kiya ki uski mother had also been married to 3 brothers, so it was not an anomaly for her. राजू की पहली शादी फर्स्ट हस्बैंड गुड्डू के साथ ट्रेडिशनल हिंदू सेरेमनी में हुई थी. उसके बाद उसने बाकी सारे भाइयों से, बैजू, संतराम, गोपाल, दिनेश से साथ में ही शादी कर ली. So the official hubby is Guru, who states that we all have sex with her, but I am not jealous. We are one big happy family. The family sleeps together on the floor and there are no beds in the house. Raju ये बोलती है कि initially it felt a bit awkward, but I don't favor one over the other. I get a lot more attention and love than most wives. Now there is an internalizing within her that how much love or affection do wives get. But she is the modern day Draupadi, as you can, and I can share the story with you. There's also the critique of Valentine's Day, because it is less about love. Valentine was what? There are 3 narratives behind the culture of Valentine's Day. So initially the Roman civilization was pagan, and then it adopted around 300 AD or something Christianity. So in 3 narratives or 3 myths about Valentine's Day, the first myth is that there was a Saint Valentine who, because at that point of time, Constantinople had, no. At that point of time, Claudius II, who was the Roman emperor, he had ordered that कोई भी मतलब शादीशुदा मर्द जो है is not a good soldier, तो शादी ही वो बैन कर दिया था. तो सेंट वैलेंटाइन छुप छुपा के सबकी शादी करते थे, पकड़े गए, मार दिए गए. दूसरे मिथ में था कि सेंट वैलेंटाइन जो थे वो जितने भी क्रिश्चियंस को रोमन जेल्स में गिरफ्तार करके रखा गया था और उनके खिलाफ अब्यूज हो रहा था, उनको वो रिहा करते थे छुप छुपा के, पकड़े गए, मार दिए गए. तीसरे मिथ में है कि सेंट वैलेंटाइन जो थे खुद प्रिजन में थे. ही फेल इन लव विद द jailer's daughter who was blind. He also cured her of blindness, wrote the first card to my Valentine. पकड़े गए, मार दिए गए. तो तीनों केस में he was martyred accordingly. But in the pagan system, रोम में जो 15th of February था, February itself is a month of fertility and self-purification. So there was a fertility festival which was celebrated called as Lupercalia, if I'm pronouncing it right, on every 15th of February in Roman civilization before Christianity was adopted. And it उसमें ऐसा माना जाता था कि caves में जाते थे जितने भी जो वहाँ के Luper priest होते थे, and if a married woman would touch the animal sacrifices करते थे, तो वो अगर किसी animal का leather या skin dead animal ka touch kare, so it was considered auspicious and everything. So when Christianity was adopted, all these festivals were Christianized. So 15th को बना दिया because it was fertility and love and everything. तो उसको Saint Valentine's जो martyred Christian saint है उनके नाम पे बना दिया गया Saint Valentine's Day. उसके बाद it will be only 1700 1800 जब पहले तो इंग्लैंड में ड्यूरिंग द टाइम ऑफ क्वीन विक्टोरिया जब वैलेंटाइंस डे का कॉन्सेप्ट और कार्ड्स बनना रेगुलर हुआ, एंड देयर वाज अ यूएस वुमन हु created hallmark cards on Valentine's Day. So two different simultaneous processes took place. But now Valentine's Day is more about, मतलब उसमें there is a rose day, hug day, chocolate day, kiss day, propose day, God knows what all. It's like an entire fanfare. And it is more about love, and it is less about love but more about consumerism. Yeah, buying and selling. So your dependence with the market is much more. It is not enough to love someone, but you have to buy and prove it with cards and teddy bears and flowers and everything. And liberalization के बाद ये बहुत ही ज़्यादा impactful हो गया. ये एकदम consumerism, sorry the spelling of that is wrong, but consumerism का शुरुआत हुआ. Next class में we are going to talk about, yesterday there was something which was trending on Twitter, which was, who was the first rapist of India? B.R. Ambedkar. There was a story, multiple copy pasted narratives of different people with the multiple copy pasted narrative of a Quora story, which I'll share with you. Jisme they were stating that Ambedkar was the first rapist of India. So in the next class, we are going to talk about that and we'll continue with this. But I hope that you did like today's class, and now we'll have discussions.